Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We are going to cover and break down all of the latest news in the NHL when it comes to all of the trades and things like that that have happened prior to the NHL entry draft specific for this video. Here's my goal, because doing opinion videos and talking about things that really, I have no in-depth knowledge of when it comes to some of the players, because I'm a Sharks fan. I don't really get to watch every single NHL game, obviously, nor do any of you more than likely. Here's the thing. All I can do is go on analysis and numbers that I can find and just general consensus and start a discussion. That's all I want to do, guys, okay? So whether you are a fan of a team that, maybe didn't win a trade on paper, let me know in the comments section, all right? I want to start a discussion. That's kind of what my goal is with these videos. So today we are going to break down all of the moves that happened prior to the NHL draft. And then, if it goes well, we'll do a video on the NHL draft, as my Sharks kind of killed it. So let's kick things off, I guess, with Stevie Y earlier in the day yesterday. Really just finessing, again, another great move with the Carolina Hurricanes, taking their Calder Trophy nominee goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic for a 2021 third-round pick and UFA Jonathan Bernier. So this trade, just on face value, I have no idea what the Hurricanes are doing, all right? I will be full disclosure. I've watched Nedeljkovic pretty much his whole career as a giant Ice Dogs fan. He was a phenomenal Ice Dog, and he had a great season in the NHL. He's also extremely young, and he didn't want all of that much money. The Red Wings did sign him immediately after for a $3 million contract for 2 years. I don't see how the Carolina Hurricanes wouldn't just do that. Now they're going to go with Jonathan Bernier and James Reimer, and, well, that didn't work out for the Toronto Maple Leafs 8 years ago. I don't really know what they're doing here. Not to mention, we're going to talk about another move they made just after that. I have no idea. Unless they are just going all out to try throw all their eggs in one basket at Dougie Hamilton, it really doesn't make any sense, because if they lose Dougie Hamilton too, this team goes from kind of a contender to back to the middle of the pack when they should just be hitting their stride. So a huge win for Detroit, in my opinion. I think they did a great job. They've got a good young goaltender to go along with someone that they are going to have as their starter probably in 3 and 4 years. We'll talk about that in the draft episode. But nonetheless, a great trade for Stevie Yzerman. Carolina Hurricanes fans, if there are any of you in my comment section, let me know what you think, because I'm super curious. The next trade involved the Arizona Coyotes and the Philadelphia Flyers. Teams so far in the offseason have been really weird, I'm not going to lie. Philly has made a couple of questionable decisions throughout this offseason to try and just get into the playoffs and, try and win now, I guess would be the appropriate way to say it. But they just overpaid on almost every move that they made. So this one, again, it looks like another cap dump, and I feel for Arizona Coyotes fans almost as much as I feel for Edmonton Oilers fans. Again, after the last week, I feel so bad for Oilers fans. Nonetheless, the trade is Gostisbehere from the Philadelphia Flyers, a second-round pick in 2022, a 2022 7th-round pick from the Flyers, and literally nothing goes back to Philly. So this is a clear cap dump. And the Coyotes, man, it just seems to me that their only objective in the NHL is to maybe show some signs, get a little excited, and then fizzle out, not be able to pay their top-end players, and then take on as much cap as possible, get assets, and then probably not draft them well anyways. But nonetheless, that being said, good for Arizona to recoup some assets, I guess, and take on Gostisbehere. He's obviously fallen well off from his early on years in his career, and I'm curious to see how this one plays out. I think, there's a 2-year deal, 2 years remaining on Gostisbehere contract for $4.5 million, and the Coyotes got a second-round pick next year and a 7th the following year to take on the contract. So just an L, in my opinion, on both sides. It sucks that Arizona Coyotes fans, I know maybe Shane Gostisbehere is going to be better, and, he might play up to his contract a little bit, but it just, it's sad to see. It's sad to see. All right, so I just alluded to the Flyers making really questionable decisions this offseason. Let's discuss their most questionable decision easily. The Philadelphia Flyers acquired Rasmus Ristolainen from the Buffalo Sabres for Robert Hagg, a 2021 first-round pick, a 2023 second-round pick. So if you guys, I'm a closet Buffalo Sabres fan. I had season tickets back in the Drury and Briere years. I lived in Buffalo for a small portion of my life. And I will always like Buffalo. I always want to see that team do good. And getting rid of Ristolainen, huge W. He just has not been nearly as good as he was early on, but it looked like he was going to be one of the studs in the NHL. Didn't pan out. He is awful analytically. He is a phenomenal hut card. He's gigantic. Makes $5.4 million, and he's in the final year of his contract. We'll see. I think that I don't understand the first round price tag. That blows my mind that it took that much to get Ristolainen. Good for the Buffalo Sabres. But just odd to me. This seems like a real big reach and an overpay to get a defenseman, especially when you just got rid of Gostisbehere, who's better, in my opinion. Again, I can only look at analytics, and a few times that I've seen him, I've seen Ristolainen play a lot. And, okay, there it is. The next move involves the New York Rangers and the St. Louis Blues. So the St. Louis Blues acquired Pavel Buchnevich from the New York Rangers for Sammy Blais and a 2022 second-round pick, so a pick next year's draft for the pending RFA. So this kind of screams a setup trade. Obviously, not paying Pavel Buchnevich opens up the door and a little bit more salary to go after Jack Eichel. And on the St. Louis Blues side of things, they're going to lose Tarasenko more than likely, and it appears that Gabriel Landeskog said no to going to St. Louis. So they have a bunch of holes to fill up front, and it's crazy to me when you think about how good they were for such a short period of time, and now it seems like they're on the downswing, like the St. Louis Blues, that is. They've lost Pietrangelo. They're going to lose Tarasenko. Like, it's just it's crazy to see how fast it can fall in the NHL, but Pavel Buchnevich isn't a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. They're going to sign him to a deal here. I'm not sure on what the contract would be, but nonetheless, he is probably going to fill in for Vladimir Tarasenko, who has probably played his last game as a Blues player. On the other side, I feel like the Rangers are going to only do this. I mean, they're going to be in a cap crunch at some point pretty soon when Laff and Kakko and everyone comes up for contract, but it really looks like they're setting up for Eichel, and they're one of the teams making a run at him, so we'll see. All right, the next trade we got to discuss, this one again involves the Arizona Coyotes, and this is a brutal deal. This is very tough for me to analyze, okay? It is a brutal deal in face value for the Vancouver Canucks, so I'll read the deal first. The Vancouver Canucks acquired OEL and Connor Garland from the Arizona Coyotes for Louis Eriksson, Jay Beagle, and Antoine Roussel, a 2021 first-round pick that was 9th overall in the draft, a 2022 second-round pick, and a 2023 7th-round pick. So here is why it is real rough. Again, OEL, another player that was so good early on in his career, really has fallen off. You look at metrics. I watch the Coyotes play against the Sharks tons every single season, and OEL is just a fraction of himself. And his contract is just absolutely bananas. He's got 6 more years left on it at 8.25, and that is one of the worst contracts if you look at like just career progression statistics and what it looks like to play out as one of the worst contracts in the NHL. Again, we're going to talk about another one that was signed right after, but we're like not as bad as Erik Karlsson, but Erik Karlsson has more value than Ekman Larsson right now. I think that Karlsson in about 2 years is going to be, I don't even want to think about it. But nonetheless, for the Canucks, I think that they're trying really hard to take advantage of a bad Pacific Division. It's the only reason you could do this. Now, I will say this. Connor Garland might be the most underrated player in the NHL. He is incredible. Every time that I watch him play against the Sharks, it is phenomenal. He is such a fun player, and I'm jealous of the Coyotes, or jealous that the Canucks ended up acquiring him. On the other side of things, Arizona's taking 1 season of all of the bad contracts still remaining that Jim Benning signed. So Arizona taking on Beagle and Antoine Roussel and the meme of Louis Eriksson for basically all 1 year. They're either all expiring, so all of that money is going to come off the books. And basically they got a first overall pick in last night's draft, the second round pick next year, and it's the 7th in 2023. And they got rid of OEL's contract. So again, acquired a ton of assets. They got Dylan Guenther with that pick. So basically it was, Dylan Guenther, they're losing Garland and OEL's contract. So again, I hate the Garland move, but it didn't look like they were going to pay him. That's why Arizona to me is just mind-boggling. It didn't look like they wanted to pay Connor Garland or have any interest in keeping him, which is just crazy to me. I know that he's a little bit older. I think he's 25. which means that the core of the Coyotes is probably going to age out by the time that he is still really useful. But Vancouver got a really good forward, and OEL, I mean, he's going to eat minutes, I guess, but that contract in like even right now is just awful. So just a very weird trade to look at. All right, now let's talk about the biggest one, in my opinion, and that was the Chicago Blackhawks acquiring Seth Jones, a 2021 first-round pick, the 32nd overall in last night's draft, a 2022 sixth-round pick from the Columbus Blue Jackets for Adam Bachvist, one of their best prospects and a very, very good defenseman already, a 2021 first-round pick that was 12th overall that ended up being Cole Sillinger, a 2022 sixth-round pick, a 2021 second-round pick, and next year's first-round pick. So I'll repeat that again. Columbus acquired Adam Bachvist, a 2021 first-round pick that ended up being Cole Sillinger, a 2021 second-round pick that they traded to Carolina for Jake Bean, and a 2020 next year's first-round pick. That is an unbelievable haul for Seth Jones. That alone, because again, they get a defenseman to replace Seth Jones and Adam Bachvist. They take that second-round pick, and they add Jake Bean, who's another good young defenseman, and they get a first-round pick next year, which is just, again, a huge haul. Here's the even worst part of this whole deal, though. So, again, Seth Jones, one of the better defensemen in the NHL. I mean, if you watched his series against Toronto last year in the bubble, he basically willed them to win that round against Toronto, and he is an incredible defenseman. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Here's the issue. Chicago then signed him to a $9.5 million extension for 8 years. That now becomes one of the worst contracts in the NHL because he is not nearly worth that much money now, and he's got 8 years. Is he a top pairing defenseman? Absolutely. Said, guys, I don't want to say that Seth Jones is not a good player by any stretch of the imagination. He is a first pairing defenseman. Absolutely. Will his contract end up being an absolute albatross at some point? Almost absolutely. Take it from someone who is a fan of a team that knows a thing or two about signing defensemen in their prime and being instantly just hammered with it in about 2 seasons. Okay? It's one of the more interesting deals. Obviously, they had to sign him to an extension or this deal wouldn't have made sense. But the Columbus Blue Jackets, when it turned out, or when it came out that Seth Jones wanted to leave and they were going to lose him, it's just like, man, they went all for it a couple years ago. Didn't work out. They had that great series against Tampa, and it looks like now they're in a full rebuild. And it just sucks because when you draft a player, well, they didn't really draft him, but when you acquire a player and he just looks to be a franchise piece, you have to move him. You almost never win the deal. Almost never do you win a deal where, again, Jack Eichel is going to be a perfect example. You almost never win that deal because you know what Seth Jones is. But if he was going to cost $9.5 million for 8 years, and you get Adam Bachvist, Cole Sillinger, Jake Bean, and a first-round pick next year, I think we can all agree that that's a huge W, and the Columbus Blue Jackets did a great job yesterday and in the draft. So, again, we'll talk about the draft in the draft episode. But nonetheless, a crazy deal, and, the Blackhawks, just a crazy turn of events there for them. Guys, that was all the deals leading up to the draft. There was a few trades that happened in the draft just for picks, really. But nonetheless, a crazy day of deals in the NHL. It is wild. There has been a ton of overpayments, just not from my own opinions, but just online as well as social media and, a ton of articles on The Athletic, ESPN. A lot of them are a little bit of a head scratcher, but nonetheless, it looks like the Western Conference teams specifically are trying to take advantage of the fact that the Western Conference looks to be the worst it's been in 2 decades, because outside of Vegas and Colorado, there isn't a ton of powerhouses like there is in the East. I mean, there's probably more teams in the Atlantic Division that are better than everyone in the West already. So it's going to be super interesting. But guys, let me know what you think of this video. Again, I'm not a big fan of doing opinion pieces. And please let me know your comments in the section. Don't hammer me. I am completely open with the fact that I don't watch a lot of these players. I can't watch them with my eyes. There's not enough time for me to watch every single NHL game. So I'm just going based off numbers, analytics, and information that I can find from experts in the field. That being said, I'd love to hear the fans' reactions. Let's have some conversations in the comment section. If you start blasting each other, I'm just going to delete them. Don't be that guy. All right. I'll have a good one, guys.